Hello friends, good afternoon and welcome to Smart Academy. This is Kupuswami. Thanks for joining this interactive webinar. We appreciate. Smart Academy has been conducting webinars, workshops and providing consultancy services. Today we have arranged this webinar on vendor audit, opportunities and challenges. A vendor audit or vendor assessment is an important and critical GMP activity performed by a company. It is a mandatory requirement and auditors usually ask for the audit report during inspections. Such audit may play a key role in selection or rejection of a vendor. Today we have an expert here with us, Mr. Ramalinga Prasad Kuppa. Mr. Kuppa is a GMP consultant based in Hyderabad. He has over 46 years of rich experience from pharmaceutical manufacturing organizations. He has worked with companies like ICE Pharmaceuticals, Apotex Pharmachem Inc., Renbaxy Laboratories Limited, Sri Krishna Pharmaceuticals Limited and Metrochem API Limited. His core areas of experience are in quality control, quality assurance and training on all these aspects.
Hi everyone. Today we are going to talk something about the vendor qualification, which is very important aspect of GMP for manufacturing of APIs and intermediates. Let us go into details. Who is a vendor? Vendor is a person who supplies materials to you. What kind of vendors are there to choose? These are all very important points to look into. Even if you see in your routine life, you go to a specific shop for buying any materials because you have confidence in their supplies, the way they treat you, the way they supply the material without any failures and reasonable price. All those things are there. So the same story applies to pharmaceutical industry also. Also, guideline ISH Q7, the GMP guideline for APIs and intermediates, prescribes under section 711 that manufacturers of intermediates and or APIs should have a system for evaluating the suppliers of critical materials. I'm sure the guideline says it is for critical materials, but it is a good procedure to evaluate all vendors because all materials go into the manufacturing process of your API or intermediate. Also, section 7.12 says that materials should be purchased against an agreed specifications from a supplier or suppliers approved by quality units. These are the two important points for selection and approval of vendor. Now let us go back to the section again 7.11. It says the suppliers of critical materials. What are the critical materials? For example, if you take a API molecule or even one N-1 intermediate, the major portion of the structure is considered as critical material. You may use other materials like solvents and some reagents, but they are all considered as materials but not really critical materials. So basically the very important point to note is that the critical material suppliers should be evaluated. This is the point. During the course, if you have any problems, you may please ask me for any clarifications. I'll be able to clarify your doubts also. Then coming back to evaluation, how do you evaluate? What kind of evaluation is required? What kind of parameters you check for? Since the product has to be manufactured as per GMP conditions, the vendor of key materials or critical materials should follow a GMP guide. We know all the GMP guide is ISH Q7, which is known to us all. So it is important that a vendor questionnaire be prepared from the supplier, from the customer to the supplier. how you design the vendor questionnaire. You know all sections of ICHQ 7, and you have to make some sort of a questionnaire to check whether or not each section of ICHQ 7 is complying to the requirement. For example, if you see section 3, there is a requirement of personnel. The type of personnel that are used for manufacturing purposes, the type of persons that are used for testing purposes, all those things should be put as a questions to the supplier, because the guideline says that the the personnel who are participating in the manufacturing activity should have adequate experience, adequate knowledge, and relevant experience and relevant qualifications. This is the important point. Similarly, if you go to the other areas like what kind of buildings, if you see the section 4, the buildings, how the building should be built to meet the GMP requirements, and how the equipments are designed for its suitability for manufacturing of the materials. All these things should be captured as a questionnaire. So you take that section and make questions based on that particular requirement. So from section 2, 3, 4, 5, like that, you go to the last section and make a good questionnaire. And the questionnaire should be generally not a yes or no type. For example, if you say what kind of people you have in your manufacturing, you have to put a question like that. If you say, do you have people for testing or supply of raw material receipt and all, you may get an answer like yes or no. So yes or no answers will not give a complete picture for you. So there should be a provision to describe briefly about the procedure, what they are doing. And also, you should ask for objective evidence, like you may ask them to attach the necessary SOP to comply, to check the compliance to that particular one. So when once you make all the questionnaire as per the ICHQ 7 guide, you send the questionnaire to the vendor and ask them to fill all the information sincerely, honestly, truthfully, and then supply back to the customer. Then in this, you should also ask for other information like whether or not they have any accreditations, regulatory accreditations like FDA or TGA or ISO, EPA, any of those things. So that information also should be provided. And they should give how the specifications are developed, how they are justified, all the information should be given. In fact, if you see the information that is provided by the vendor to the customer, it should really reflect the entire GMP compliance levels of that particular company. So this is the step 1 for evaluating the supplier. So when once the customer receives the vendor questionnaire, duly filled and approved by their quality units, review the entire document with reference to ICHQ 7 guide, whether or not it complies to the requirements. When once it is done, then you can plan an audit. Audit is a physical verification of whatever is written in the vendor qualification document. So this information you can check when once you go there to the site and then confirm whether or not they are complying to that and what is the level of compliance. If the level of compliance is less, they can improve upon. So this will become a complete cycle of vendor evaluation. I hope you understand up to this. Do you have any questions up to this now? If you have any questions, if you don't have any questions, we'll move ahead with some other information.
Not till now, please go ahead.
Now, when vendor qualification is done by the vendor questionnaire and the audit, that means you can confirm that the supplier is capable of providing the required key materials regularly, consistently, and continuously for a longer period. There should be an agreement, mutually agreed agreement between the vendor and the customer for supply of materials. The agreement should include, in addition to other commercial terms like the price, delivery systems and all, it is necessary to comply to the requirements of GMP. That means they should provide you a GMP certificate that they are complying to that ICH Q7 guide. Then they should provide a certificate of analysis. Then they should provide a sample. These kind of things, all the information they should give in the agreement. The agreement also should have mutually agreed conditions on either side. There will be some responsibilities common for both customer as well as the vendor. That point also should be clearly mentioned in the vendor questionnaire. Vendor agreement. The vendor also should make a provision to allow the customer to audit the facility whenever there is a requirement or whenever there is a call. For example, if there is a breakdown or if there is a material failure, a serious failure that hampered the manufacturing process of the customer, the vendor should allow the customer to audit their plant. This is very, very important. So coming back to the qualification of the vendor, the first thing is the vendor should give you the route of synthesis. This is very, very important. The route of synthesis is actually a reaction scheme that describes how the material is manufactured at their site, what kind of controls, what kind of systems or procedures are followed, and it should be brief because all manufacturing processes will be confidential in nature and they will not provide you. They are not obliged also to provide you immediately. So the route of synthesis, a brief route of synthesis should be provided by the vendor. The route of synthesis should include all the chemicals used at all stages of the manufacture, including the solvents used at various stages of manufacturing. They also should provide information on whether or not they are screening for the OVIs, the organic volatile impurities, or the residual solvents, their methodology for testing the material. These information should be given along with route of synthesis.
Any questions?
The brief process flowchart should be given, how the reaction goes on.
Okay, answer.
Here also, they need not give a detailed confidential part of the process. They can give a brief process. This also should be provided along with the vendor qualification document. Each stage, the critical material, whatever they are supplying, whatever the vendor is supplying, should have the information on how many stages that is being manufactured throughout the process. This is very important. The list of solvents used, they should be classified like class 1, class 2, and class 3 solvents, because there is a guideline that to the extent possible, the process should not use class 1 solvents. The class 1 solvents like benzene or carbon tetrachloride, they are all toxic, they are carcinogens, and also genotoxic materials. So it should be, to the extent possible, avoid usage of this class 1 solvent. Class 2 are less toxic, but however, they are also toxic with limited toxicity. So they should give information on the list of solvents that are used. And if they are using any class 3 solvents like acetone or ethyl acetate, ethanol, these solvents can be also be given. So they should classify the solvents they are doing, and then they have to provide approximately what are the limits or what not limits, what are the content which they have for their product, how much is the product residues or the solvent residues are in the product, in their product. This information is very much required. In certain cases, the vendor may not use class 1 solvents. In that case, they can give a declaration saying that there is no class 1 solvents used in the process, and hence, if tested for class 1 solvents, the material passes. The same kind of information can be given for class 2 solvents also. So this information should be a part of an attachment, a declaration by the vendor. This is important. Then there may be some solvents which are not listed in any of the classes, like class 1, class 2, or class 3. They are classified as class 4, and it is the responsibility of the vendor to provide information on their traces in the product and also how it is evaluated. This information is very much required. If there are any metal catalysts like palladium or nickel, this information also should be provided in the vendor questionnaire along with the attachments indicating the amount that is possible in the product, in the final product which they supply. When they are supplying some impurities, for example, if they supply a material along with impurities, all the characterization data of those impurities also should be provided to the vendor, to the customer. Because for any evaluation of the materials, if the customer needs support for getting some impurities, the vendor should give those impurities. It is also requirement as per the agreement. You should have the quality agreement for getting that. Then all the materials and impurities should be characterized using NMR, mass, that kind of testing methods. And then you have to confirm its structure, and you have to certify that material also. And the vendor also should be able to provide small amounts of the impurities to the customer in case they require, if they are not available in the market readily. The vendor also should give detailed specifications for their materials and justification. In the specifications, it is very important to have one identification test specific to that material. Like, for example, if you see any pharmacopoeia or any other compendia for APIs, you have A, B, C, D, like that 4 or 5 specification test methods may be there for identification tests. In that, at least one should be specific to that. Like, for example, if you see IR is one of the specific identification tests for any material, because IR can give good information on the functional groups of the material. Some materials will have a specification like to compare with the standard, the retention time of the standard and the test should match when tested in HPLC using a specific method. So all this information should be provided for specifications. When they talk about the impurities, any impurity more than 0.1% should be identified and quantified. So it is very important that any specification more than 0.1 or 0.15%, the vendor should identify that impurity, characterize that, and give the information to the customer. This is an important thing. So any material, any critical material or starting material, without information on specifications on the related substances, impurities on HPLC or GC, and it is just a generic reference that the product is 99.9% pure is not adequate. It is necessary to include all potential impurities in the process, and they have to give analytical method to evaluate those impurities also. Then if the process is validated, they have to give the information on validation documentation also. So if the validation is a confidential information, the vendor may give a declaration that the process is validated against a reference number that is given by the vendor, and that reference number can be given to the customer. This is very important because in case of any reference, the customer can go back to the vendor and check whether or not the process is validated, how the process was validated. All the process information can be reviewed at the vendor site. So this particular point is very important. The vendor also should provide batch analysis for 3 consecutive batches, along with certificate of analysis. The specifications for packaging materials also is required because the quality or the stability of the material totally depends on how it is packaged, how the primary pack, how the secondary pack is done, how the tertiary packaging is done. All this information should be provided in the vendor questionnaire. The scheme should not be changed unless it is justified with some other justification. Mostly it depends on the stability of the product. So when once the vendor sends the material to the customer should always check whether or not the same type of packaging system is used always. If there is a change in the packaging system, it is the responsibility of the customer also to ask the vendor why there was a change in the packaging system, and the system should be the new scheme should be described well. Then there should be a commitment on declarations like CGMP declaration that the vendor follows the GMP conditions as per ICH Q7. Then they should give declaration as explained earlier on the residual solvents or OVI for class 1, class 2 and class 3 solvents. They have to give some declarations on TSC, BSc certificates or any other gluten-free certificates, whatever the customer wants. All those certificates have to be provided by the vendor. And if any registrations are there for any FDA or any European countries or any other regulatory agencies, it is required to provide copy of all those things. You may have even ISO. So those papers should be provided. Product process is the manufacturing process. Whether or not the process is carried out exactly as per the approved BMR, that is the point. That is for the process. System audit is how the GMP systems are followed, like how the materials are received, how they are quarantined, how they are tested, how they are sampled, how they are dispensed, how they are staged in the production areas, how the intermediates are tested, how the finished product is tested. All those things are called system audit. The section 7.12, it says that material should be purchased against agreed specifications from a supplier or suppliers approved by the quality units. So here the material supply should be as per agreed specifications, not as per the vendor's specifications, because the vendor specification may not be exactly same as the customer's requirement. The customers may require additional requirements like control on water content or LOD content. Even the SA also sometimes the vendor may be giving you only 95%, but whereas your process you may need 99%. This is a very important point. So it is the responsibility of the customer to provide the information on the specifications to the vendor always. It is the requirement that the customer should give the vendor the specifications. Also, when the vendor gives the certificate of analysis for any material, it is the responsibility of the quality control system to check whether or not it passes to the specifications of the customer. If it doesn't pass, then your material is not okay. So this communication between the vendor and the supplier is a must always. The TSC BSc certificate, Sun Pharma wanted some information on this. The TSC BSc certificate is mostly used for the biological products mostly not for synthetic products. This is the requirement that the product whatever is used with the source of TSC BSC, you have to prove that your product does not have the TSC BSC contamination. This is a very important point. For synthetic process, this is not valid. In formulation FP, you don't have to do in formulation FP. You may have to do in the API that is used in the formulation. But if any material that can give you the TSC, BSC contamination in formulation, at that time you may have to do it. Otherwise, not required. As I told you, it is the responsibility of the customer to send the current specification sheet to the vendor always. So, for example, if there is a revision in your specifications and test method, it is the responsibility of the customer to communicate to the vendor very much. Otherwise, he will supply the material with the old specification and he is not obliged to give back to you. Is it clear?
Yes,
The
sir.
vendor also should have a detailed rejection procedure, handling of rejected materials. For example, if the material goes to the customer and it fails in specifications, then there should be a provision in customers and also that the vendor should have a CAPA procedure to investigate into the causative factors of the failure of that particular material and what kind of precautions or what kind of controls they have to make sure that these kind of failures do not happen again. And they also should commit that from next time onwards they will not have any this kind of failures. Even for general raw materials, there should be a minimum of identification test. Key materials is okay, but minimum specific identification test is a requirement. Plus, as say, for example, if the process needs dry materials and if the vendor cannot supply that, that also becomes a part of the specification. So even the general materials, the specifications totally are dependent on the customer process requirement. The supplier question, I'll just make a, I'll just read out certain things. These are all very important points for customer or for the vendor to provide along with vendor question. The vendor questionnaire should be made exactly to answer your all GMP questions of ICHQ7. And in the attachment, they should give the route of synthesis, brief process, number of stages they manufacture, they make for the product, the list of solvents used in each stage, the list of solvents used other than specified in classes, list of metal catalysts if any used, characterization of the final product and the impurities they have to provide you, list of impurities provide, they should provide you small amount of impurities also because they are all very specific to particular vendor and they should be able to provide you. This should be a part of your agreement. Then specification tests should be there. Validation reports they should give you. Validation reports are some sort of a document indicating that they have validated the process. Batch analysis is required for 3 batches and all these things they should submit at the time, they should provide you at the time of submission of the sample for evaluation to consider as a vendor, approved vendor. Vendor, supplier is different questionnaire. Here actually the guideline says vendor means it's manufacturer. Supplier is only an agent. So if a supplier provides you the material, it is the responsibility of the supplier to give you the information on the original manufacturer. That is a requirement. Supplier is only a trader. He doesn't have any controls over the material supply. The responsibility is only on the original manufacturer. So when a supplier gives you a material without a real name of the vendor, then that is not acceptable. And any material supplied by the supplier from other than the approved vendor is not acceptable as per GMP. Don't do that. Yeah. See, this is a good question, Lawrence Unit 1. How frequently you have to audit the vendor? My recommendation is, please go through quality risk management. In that guide, there is a tool which is called risk ranking and filtering. If you see the FDA or any other regulatory agencies, they schedule the audits based on the data supplied as per that filtering and risk ranking. If everything is good, the vendor may be given 5-star rating and he can be audited once in 5 years or even more. There is no problem. If there are more problems, then you may have to audit that vendor more frequently, less than 2 years. This is, for example, to make it simple. If you are a 5-star person, that means you are good. So the frequency of your audit should be once in 5 years. That should be okay, because all supplies are good. There are no failures. There are no supply problems. Everything is good, and the supplier is giving a fantastic material all the time. So why do you go and then audit every time when he is supplying the material to your specifications all the time? That means he is following GMP fully. So you don't have to go very frequently. So in fact, you don't have a procedure to have a specific 3 years or 4 years or 2 years audit programs. You don't have to. You read that guideline, and if you have any questions, you can ask me. I'll tell you. Risk ranking and filtering in quality risk management. That's a good guide. Even FDA or any other regulatory agencies, they schedule audits based on the information. If you see, there is a guideline called quality matrix. That is the voluntary information that we are providing to the regulatory agencies. Based on that information, they may postpone the audits also. They will not come for audit, because your data indicates that you are GMP compliant to a higher level. That's the point. You understood? Any questions? Yeah. How can we fix the rating? Yeah, how can we fix the rating is, you jot down all the batches that are provided by him. You see how many times it failed, or how many times the vendor failed to supply the material within time. So you can have your own parameters to check the quality of the material. So if all the things are there, and if your performance index is more than 0.9, and more than 0.9, you can qualify that person as, you can classify that person as 5-star rating, and you can do once in 5 years. And if the rating falls below 0.5, maybe you can do once in 2 years. And if it falls below 1, probably you may have to blacklist that person, and then you don't buy material from him at all. That's fine. Is it clear, Ishwar? Yes, ICH QC. See, mostly KSMs are N-1 materials for manufacturing of APIs. So, in fact, if you see the first page, the flowchart of ICH Q7, where the GMP starts, the introduction of KSM into the process. But when the KSM itself is in N-1 or only one step or purification step just before the API, it is a requirement that to follow that very clearly on these things, on GMP conditions. It is. If it is N-1 or N-2, probably the conditions can be relaxed a little bit. Is it clear, Ishwar? Yeah, thank you. So any more questions? Yes, nitrosamines also, because particularly the manufacturers of sartans, where there is a possibility of these nitrosamines, it is a requirement. As I told you, it depends upon your usage. If you need more certificates, in fact, some people also ask for melamine-free certificate also. If required, you have to ask that also. So your process requirement, you have to jot down and then ask for certificates. Yeah, is it clear, Suresh? If If there is a detailed repacking procedure under GMP conditions, it is okay. There is no requirement to have a requalification. But requalification aspect can be inspected at the time of initial audit itself, or even in vendor questionnaire, you can put a question saying that, do you repack the materials? How you repack? Is it under GMP conditions or not? That you can review. Is it okay, Sun Pharma? What is the difference between first and second? Okay, what is the difference between product process? Is the answer. What is the difference between first and second and third party audits? Okay, a third party audit is from an external agency. You can call it that way. Third party is other than the vendor or the supplier. Vendor or the supplier. It is one to one. This is first and second is this first second is only between the vendor and the supplier, the vendor and the customer. Whereas third party is like any regulatory agency is also called actually third party auditors, because they come and verify both the things. Vendor changes case and procedure against. Yes, if the vendor changes the case and procedure, you have to requalify that vendor fully, because if the chemical process changes, the impurities may change, residual solvents may change, all systems may change. So it is necessary. That means it is as good as going for a new product, new material, new KSM itself. So even if you are using the same KSM with different route of synthesis, it is necessary to requalify the vendor. Yes. Bhavi Reddy has some point. Some of the vendors not accept procedure qualified. That is, Ishwar, that is a risk for you, because unless you have a confidence that the supplier is giving a good material, it is a risk for you. In fact, the guideline clearly says that there should be a provision to evaluate the vendor. Audit is not only the procedure, but if you have a good system of giving all documentation supporting the GMP of the fine chemicals or fine chemical manufacturer, it is acceptable. But only thing is, there is a risk if you don't go to the vendor facility and then audit that facility. In fact, you can see the guideline. It doesn't say that do the audit. It says that evaluate. Evaluation can be any way. You can do by vendor questionnaire is also a full-fledged, detailed vendor questionnaire with all data integrity things. You can get that. That's not a problem. Is it clear? Can we proceed? Yeah, you are right. You have to do a risk assessment for your process. If there is no problem with that material, with the supply of that material, then you can accept. But there should be a provision in your SOP also to do this. If you don't have a procedure indicating that this kind of fine chemicals can be accepted as such without any vendor audit, then that becomes a problem. So there should be a provision with a condition that the vendor is reviewed, evaluated by very elaborate and then all good systems with all documentation, and we have a huge number of documents from the supplier, and hence we justify that this vendor is good. That's what we have to do. Is it required to follow ICH for critical raw materials in manufacturer? Yes. Yes. If it is a critical material, you have to follow ICH Q7, because if you do not have any information on the impurities or residual solvent, those materials, those impurities will reflect into your product. So in fact, vendor is not a separate entity. It is a part of one step before the customer. Is it not? So for example, if an API supplier provides information to a formulator, how much information you are providing? The same type of backward integration should be done. So vendor is not a separate entity from the manufacturer, from the customer. So these two are working together to get a good quality of the product. So your risk assessment should include all these things. Any questions? Any more? But definitely the risk ranking and filtering, you read that that's a fantastic tool for staggering the audits. Audits can be very well done by vendor questionnaires also. In fact, if you see some time back when during the Corona period, they were virtual audits. You can also have virtual audit also. Why not? Some plants use that facility also to do the virtual audits. Anything more? If you read section 7.30, 31 and 32 also, there is a lot of information provided in ICH Q7 guide. And it vendor audit before. Yeah, it is a requirement. Some of the monopoly vendors are not accepting the customer specification how to handle this issue. This is again your risk. You have if you say monopoly and you are risking your product, you should have some sort of a detailed questionnaire and then from the supplier. That is a requirement. The guideline clearly says that whatever materials you are getting from your vendor should be evaluated. You can have any different methods also. If you say monopoly, I'm sure the vendor should provide you, because in your purchase agreements you're asking for this information. Yes or no? You may have to work out with your purchase department to put a point like this. Whatever data we want, you give the data for us. We have to give the data. That's a must. Otherwise, how do you evaluate your vendor without any paper or without you visiting there? Isn't it? Use test, yes. Generally, if you see statistically, requirement is use 3 or more. Statistical requirement is 3 points, because any 2 points can be joined through a straight line. Straight line means consistency. Unless the third point is also linear, you cannot connect 3 points together in a straight line. Yes or no? That is a real statistical minimum requirement for 3 points. If any 2 points, you can cover with one line, one straight line. Is it not? You can get one straight line through 3 points only when all the 3 are in one line. Is it okay? So you have to take 3 batches. That's a requirement. 3 batches, if you are not getting immediately, you can start with 1 batch and make a commitment that you will validate with 2 more batches. Till then, you keep this vendor as a temporary approved vendor. When once you are comfortable with commercial scale production also, then you can convert that into final approved vendor. It's okay. You can do that way. So you can have a system to have L1 level 1 vendor, level 2 vendor, level 3 vendor also. Level 1 vendor is when you are doing minimum data, you can keep him as level 1 vendor. When it is totally approved through commercial manufacturing, you can put him in level 2 vendor. And if the supply is very good and there are no problems at all, you can have a level 3 vendor where you can also have reduced testing of the material. You can also have that. You can have that. That's why you read section 7.30, 31 and 32 of ICH Q7. This information is given. Very nice information. But certain materials, when will you do audit before validation? Commercial supply. The audit should be done before validation or during validation or during commercialization also. But it is very important that before the product is marketed, all these aspects should be completed. Before the product goes to the market, these things should be completed. You have to complete the commercial manufacturing and validations of those batches. Initiate stability also, you do that, no? So all these things should be done before the material goes to the market. Is it clear, Ishwar? What kind of gases? You mean hydrogen chloride or some sort of a gas like that? Because most of the time hydrogen chloride or chlorine, they are all going into that. But again, as I told you, if the certain materials can be accepted based on the certificate of analysis provided by the vendor, provided there is a system to verify the manufacturing process of the vendor and the certificate of analysis provided by that and the authenticity of the certificate of analysis. That's the guideline. So what is the authenticity of the certificate of analysis? How the testing is done, how the data is generated, is it auditable, is it audit reliable, all those things. If it is there, any material that can be accepted by the vendor certificate is also okay. There is a provision in guideline also, but with that condition, there is a condition for that. So finally the requirement is that there should not be any adverse impact on your process using the vendor's material. Is it okay, Devendra? Is it any certain periods mentioned in the guideline? Which guideline says excipients with the audit requirement? OPEC guide says you have to do the the excipients audit also. Upuswamy, see, some questions are there, but the questions are disappearing here.
Sir, I
How
will
they-
read it out to you. Which
okay.
this is from Sun Pharma. He is asking which guideline says excipient vendor audit requirement.
That I already answered. It is OPEC guideline. A specific guideline is there for the excipients. It is there. It is almost similar to GMP only.
Okay. One more question is from Mr. Suresh. Is it any certain period is mentioned in the guidelines for performing the vendor audits?
Yeah, no, I told you already, based on the risk ranking and filtering, the vendor audits can be rescheduled, no problem. It can be staggered. I told them to go through the Q9 guide with that tool, last tool, the risk ranking and filtering tool.
Okay, you have answered this question. For any chemicals, reagents or materials used in the quality control unit, vendor qualification is required or not? Devendra Kumar
That is not a part of the vendor
everyone.
qualification. Yeah, the chemicals that are used in the laboratory for testing, it is not a part of vendor qualification.
Sir, you have put
how many days required for vendor audit? How many days are required for vendor audit?
Mute. Please unmute.
It depends.
Not
It depends on the complexity of the manufacturing site.
You.
Tommy? Yeah, somebody was asking about how many man-days you want. It totally depends on the complexity of the vendor site and your requirement. It may be 3 days, it can be 2 days also. What is a qualification, requalification of auditors? Is there any? What is the qualification, requalification of auditors? You are going in a slightly different angle. You are asking how a auditor is qualified, right? Yeah, how the auditor is qualified. The auditor is qualified there is a syllabus and there is a questionnaire, and if you pass that, then you can be an auditor. Like how you are given a driving license, there is a requirement you have to go and attend to the class, and then if you pass, then you are called a driver. It is like that. So there is a requirement that you have to pass to the syllabus of GMP and your capability of articulating the information of ICH Q7 guide or Drugs and Cosmetics Act guide, and then you will be qualified as a auditor. After some more time, if there is a changes in guideline and if there is a improvements in the guideline, you may have to requalify to confirm that the revised changes of the guideline are understood and understood by the auditor, and he can carry out the audit without any problem. Is it clear?
Sir, who can conduct this test, sir? How you call?
Which one?
So you told that you can qualify that ISHQ7 something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who will conduct this test in in-house?
In-house, yes, you can have, or you can have some agencies also which can do. Like for example, there is one the ISO agencies are there. They will give you auditor certificate also.
Okay.
So
Why?
similarly,
Because
you can have some sort of a internal system with a team of subject matter experts, and then they can decide on how the qualification can be done for the auditors. It can be done.
yeah. So
Maybe if you want, I can help you in on some other occasion. I can make something for you. No problem.
sure, sir. Because we have one regulatory audit. In that audit, they asked, sir, what is the requalification criteria for auditor?
Yeah, this is the one. See, what you should tell is when there is a change in the existing guide, and if there are additional requirements,
Okay.
and the earlier person is not trained on that, right? So
Yes.
it is the responsibility of the team to requalify this person to enhance the knowledge on this. For example, when there is a change in STP or SOP, are you not requalifying to the new requirements?
Okay.
So it is the same way the already qualified auditor can be requalified. Is it clear?
Yeah. Is there any frequency, sir? Uh,
Maybe once in 2 years is okay. Otherwise, you'll be good doing only this job. Once in 2 years is okay.
yeah.
Or you can also say like this:
Yeah.
once in 2 years, or whenever there is a change in the guideline. That you can say.
Yeah. Sir, one more question,
Because
sir.
2 years also is very, very, very less. Actually, you can make once in 3 years.
Yeah. Okay. Fine, sir.
Put a point that whenever there is a change in the guideline, that should at that time you have to requalify.
Okay.
Yeah.
So during preparation of audit report,
Yeah.
can we mention that is it according to ISHQ7 we verified this facility and it is accepted?
If everything is good, yes, you can say that.
The auditor also asking same question, sir. So why you not mentioning the ISHQ7? Because some companies don't have ISHQ7 requirements. So then that case, how we can write that in audit report? Is it?
I will tell you. For example, if ICHQ7 says a particular point should be complied,
Yeah.
and they may be complying with a different kind of approach, but it's okay. You can say that. You can say what you can say is, as per ICH number section so and so, you have this section and you are complying to this. That you can say.
Good. That total 20 sections not required to confirm, sir.
You have to. Only relevant sections, whatever you are looking for, he has to do that. No, you tell me one specific things. I can help you.
Yeah. What auditor asking means, so in my audit report, we write that is it vendor is accepting as per ISHQ7, they followed all the requirements. But
Okay.
vendor action, what are the points you verified during this audit? So you
That is
covered
what
all the 20 points or not?
See, for example, you go for an audit. Did you verify all 20 chapters of ICHQ7?
It is difficult, sir, sometimes.
Then you take more time.
So, some points they cannot comply because they have small facility.
So what kind of point? Maybe you can tell me one example. Or is there any alternate? See, your aim should be how the quality of the product that is being supplied to you is protected. That's all is required.
Okay.
If you have an alternate system to ensure or to confirm that the product supplied to you is not compromised, the quality is okay.
Okay.
You can write that. You can say that there is an alternate method which is equivalent to so and so guideline, so and so section of ICHQ7, and this is acceptable. You can write that.
Because some vendors told that we are not complying ISHQ7, we are going only ISO 9001 requirements only. So they don't like that.
Yeah, Ishwar, I'll tell you, if you carefully see the ISO guideline and ICHQ7, these two are almost similar. I mean, the interpretation is slightly different. Maybe what I would suggest is, Ishwar, you go through ICHQ10 guide. That is a integration of Q8, Q9, ICH, Q7, and ISO. That's a wonderful guide. You can go through once.
Okay, sir.
ICH Q10.
Okay, sir.
If you have any questions, maybe you can ask me. I can help you.
Sure, sir. Sure.
Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
I can help you in integration of all these things. That is not called as a quality management system. It's called what is that? Product quality PMS. That's called a product quality system. Something like that is it. PQS.
Okay, sir.
Performance quality system, something like that. It is a combination. It is an integration of all these things. It's a good guide. You go through that ICHQ10.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. You are from which company, Ishwar?
Laras Lab, sir.
Oh, Laris. Oh, okay. Okay. Whatever information I told you today, is it useful for you?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Any more questions? And also, please read the filtering and risk ranking, Ishwar. That will be very useful for you. You will be really surprised to see a lot of information is there.
Okay.
Because we generally, you go through only the STPs, SOPs. You don't really go through the guidelines. You have to go through.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah. Sun Pharma, some question? Swami, Sun Pharma was asking some question. The question disappeared here. Where can I get this? That. How to calculate risk assessment? Okay, risk assessment. What you should do is, maybe I don't know. You subscribe to my channel. Just last week only, I loaded one risk assessment scheme for a process change. You can note down my YouTube Pharma World K. If you say Pharma World K, and then if you subscribe for that, just last about 4 days back only, I loaded one risk assessment report. There are at least 3 or 4 risk assessment reports with examples. You can go through that. Sun Pharma. What is the difference between first, second? This I answered already. The third party is other than the manufacturer and the vendor. When a third party comes, like any other regulatory agency or anybody, that's called third party audit.
This question is answered.
Yeah,
For
answered.
vendor qualification criteria, how the test result criteria consider for comparison result against the vendor results?
एक minute. For vendor qualification criteria, how the test results criteria considered for comparison result against vendor results. You can have some sort of an acceptance criteria. Like for example, when you do the Six Sigma or some statistical evaluation, if the data is within 2% RSD, that means this is acceptable. You can say that. You can have a criteria like that. You can calculate the RSD. Or also you can do CPK values also. If the values are around 1 and 1.33, then you can say that the system is okay because you have evaluated statistically. Is it okay, Sun Pharma? Okay, thank you. So really you use the statistical tools like the RSD, the CPK, and also go to things like X bar graphs, range graphs. They are really wonderful statistical tools which are there to evaluate perfectly how the data is representing. It is very good. And any auditor, if he sees the statistical evaluated data, they will be very happy. We always take in a Excel sheet and say that is the evaluation. It's only a summary. It's not an evaluation. Evaluation is when you do CPK values, all these statistical evaluations. Guideline for risk ranking and available in Google. You can get in ICH Q9. There are 9 tools in that. I think the 9th one or 8th one is the filtering and risk ranking. Go to ICH, go to Google and say ICH Q9. You get and you see the tools in the annexer. The last one tool is the filtering and risk ranking only. Devendra, is it okay? Good. So verify the ICH Q9 guide. You will get really wonderful information there.
Sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, during vendor performance rating, we usually do once in a year. So that performance rating, how can you fix like 80%, 90%? Is there any criteria?
That's what, what you do is you should develop a performance index. The performance index can be developed based on the number of supplies, number of rejections, number
Okay.
of deliveries, time deliveries, and any other critical parameters like any failure in essays, like that. You multiply. You keep those things in your risk ranking, and you should get a performance index of not less than 0.9. Then that means he's a good vendor.
So, sir, 0.9 is very difficult because we
Okay,
procure
make
two,
it
three.
0.8. Okay, you make it 0.8.
Yeah,
Or
because
maybe you
we
calculate and then see.
yeah, correct, sir. You understand? I understand, sir. What you correct? But
Yeah.
sometimes we procure only two, three lots. Then it is very difficult to justify. One lot failure means 50% it is failure.
Yeah, I understand. Your point is understood. But
Yeah.
certain times there is a risk really. But if you take the third one also, then you can do some sort of evaluation, at least some. If two, how can you evaluate? Statistically, you cannot evaluate.
But the requirement is only three lots, sir. So then, in that case, one lot failure means if it is says 0.8, 0.9, it will not
You
to.
cannot get. Yeah, you are right. You
Yeah.
can't get. Point nine, you
So
cannot
in
get.
that case, so what is the action, sir?
See, in that such certain cases, you have to case by case. You have to talk those things, not as a
Okay.
general. It is only generic thing.
Yeah.
That is
Okay,
only
sir.
by case to case.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Devendra.
So, Ishwar, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Ishwar. Thank you, Ishwar. So, if you have any more questions, you can ask me. Even you can ask our team also, so that I can make this kind of webinars again and again for your benefit.
Sure, sir.
Yeah. When vendor kept under observation as at Pharma and a rejection kept. The question is not clear to me. Please reframe that. When vendor kept under observation as at Pharma, any rejection kept under observation. Is it correct? No, I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
When vendor kept under observation at Sun Pharma, sir.
Uh, what does it mean? When vendor kept under
Yes,
observation,
hello.
tell
Yeah,
me.
please go ahead.
At our procedure, if any rejections, if any lot rejected, when I am kept a vendor under observation, or if any particle size bulk density fail in a year for 3 lot kept under
Okay.
observation.
Okay, now I understand your question this way. For example, if a material is rejected by the customer, do you keep the vendor under observation, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. See, if it is once in a while case, for example, if the vendor is good and he supplies every time a good material, and if only one material is failed, then you may have to investigate as a part of CAPA with the vendor. If it
Okay.
is regularly happening, then you may have to requalify that fellow, putting him under hold.
Okay.
Yeah. Is it clear?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Who is that from Sun Pharma?
Satyan.
Satyan. Okay. Is it clear, Satyan? So if
Yes.
it is only once off case, you ask for a detailed CAPA along with the confirmation that it will not happen again with the vendor. And if it is regularly happening, then you have to put that person under hold or under observation. Vendor has changed its manufacturing block and notified through notification supported with documentation like PMS certificate. In such cases, re-audit is required. It depends upon the amount of documentation he provides and the equivalence. Equivalence is evaluated
Sir,
only
just
through
a second.
statistics. Please note.
Prasad sir, just a second. I will read out the question to the audience. Then only the answer they will be able to.
Yeah, read. Vendor has changed the manufacturing. Read that.
Vendor has changed the manufacturing block and notified through notification supported for documents like sameness certificate. In such cases, re-audit is required or not. This is from one Mr. Krishnakant Dakhave. I don't know which company.
Yeah, Mr. Krishnakant, you said sameness. I want to know what is that sameness. Sameness means, is the data evaluated statistically? Just now I was telling, statistically if it is equal, and if the RSD is less than 2%, and if the CP/CPK values are well within the control, that means it is same. And also, are there any new impurities or anything? If it is nothing is there, and if the evaluated data is absolutely good statistically, then it is okay. So the sameness, whatever you said, if the sameness is established by statistical evaluation, this is acceptable. Is it okay? Yeah, it is good then. Absolutely okay. Maybe in your requalification, you can make a commitment that sorry. Maybe you can make a statement that during your re-audit of that facility, as per your schedule, these things may be verified again. You can do that.
The question was, if same vendor provides same RM into from two different sites, both are required for site qualification? This is the question. Now you answer.
Yes, as I told you, even if it is the same material, it is considered as a separate material because it is coming from two sites. Again, as I told earlier, the sameness or equivalence should be established through statistical evaluation with all parameters like purity, impurities, all those things. If it is same, then only you can accept. Otherwise, both have to be audited separately.
Sir, in that case, for one vendor, the vendors will be considered two, or same vendor, one vendor will be considered because it is from two different sites, one material. So we will consider as two different vendors.
Yeah, the vendor is, location is different. So GPS is different. So that is unit 1, this is unit 2.
So two vendors basically.
Yes. The same
the water
unit
system
1 supplies this, same company, unit 2 supplies this. You have to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other question? We can take some more questions. We have time. 4:30 is for conclusion.
I'm okay for another 15 minutes.
Can you please, sir, one more question. I will read it out, then you answer, please.
Yeah.
Can you please elaborate on use of recovered solvents? This is Krishnakant Dakave. From which company he is not writing? The very good questions he is asking, but he is not writing which company.
But see, this is another part of this. Actually, it's not a part of vendor qualification. But however, I'll answer. Recovered solvents, you see section 14 of ICH Q7. It clearly says that the recovered solvents can be used provided there is a detailed procedure on recovery and the specifications are developed for that. The method is qualified, method is validated. Then you can use the same material. And also, there is a recommendation that it is to be used in the same stage of the process. From whichever stage you are recovering that material, you have to use in the same stage. That is a better recommendation. You can refer section 14 of ICH Q7.
Sir, this recovered solvents, sir, there are two things actually.
Yeah.
Just for my knowledge, you tell me.
Yeah.
The recovered, one is the recovered solvents used by the vendor.
By the vendor? Okay.
Manufacturer, by the manufacturer. Another one, we can also use the recovered solvents in our process.
Yeah. The same story. For both the same story. The recovery process should be validated and the recovered solvents should have specifications that are suitable to get good quality output.
Okay, that Krishnakant Dakave is from Cipla, he has mentioned. Okay, very good question, Mr. Krishnakant. Any other?
Krishnakant, you got the answer? Okay, thank you.
Yes. Any more? Now you please, sir, you are done with your program?
Yes, I am done with the program.
One minute, sir. I have one question.
Please.
I am Ishwar from Laras Labs.
Please tell your name and company and talk actually.
Yeah, my name is Ishwar from Laras Labs.
Yes, Ishwar.
Yeah. Sometimes when manufacturer is different, supplier is different. That material is in some temperature sensitive. So in that case, do we need to audit that supplier facility also?
Oh, supplier stores the material?
Yeah.
You have to audit, because there is a requirement to store the material at appropriate storage conditions, right? Temperature and humidity conditions.
Correct.
So in that case, the supplier is also your vendor only.
Yeah. As so most of the Chinese companies doing like this, because we are procuring all the KSMs from China only, right?
Okay.
So in that case, China doing this business, like they had stored some KSMs and they ship to our manufacturing facilities. So manufacturer is different, supplier is different.
Yeah, you are right.
So is it required? Correct. Required to do audit for us.
Again, I'll tell you, as far as guideline is concerned, vendor means the manufacturer. Supplier is only a agent, right?
Yeah, correct.
So in your case, the supplier is also doing some part of the vendor's job. That means the storage he is doing that.
Correct.
So he is considered as an extension of the original manufacturer.
Okay.
So whatever conditions the original manufacturer is following, it is the responsibility of the extended supplier also is responsible for that. So he is supposed to store like that only.
Okay. So
And it is your responsibility to audit that fellow also.
yeah. So only audit is enough. You do some exercise, VQ documentation like exercise.
It is only one part. No, we have to qualify whether the air handling system and the temperature and humidity control systems are working as required.
Okay.
And you have to verify the records whether or not they are stored continuously or 24 hours. Are there any data loggers? Are there any spikes for the mean kinetic temperature? If in case of any mean kinetic temperatures, was there any evaluation done for the product? Is there anything done like that? No, all that kind of things have to be checked for this vendor, for the supplier.
Yeah. So
But
in
don't
this,
call him as a supplier. You call him as a part of the vendor only.
okay.
Because he is storing the material.
Yeah.
He is doing a part of the vendor, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's like that.
Okay. So in some cases, vendor supplied the material this room temperature, but the material is temperature sensitive. So in that case, do you need data logger in that during transportation?
Yes. Because if the material is temperature sensitive,
Okay.
and where is the data? Where is the guarantee that the material is supplied in a controlled fashion from the source till the customer? So data logger is a requirement.
Okay.
It is a must.
Sir,
Or
one
data
more.
logger also calculates every 10 minutes.
Okay.
Sir, one more question.
Yeah.
This is from Krishnakant, that is from same Cipla. He is asking,
Yes, Mr. Kant.
if as API manufacturer unable to perform DEHT, CEHT study in multiple product facility, how to justify it through supporting quality tools?
The DEHT and CEHT is a part of quality tool only. Because unless these things are done, your quality of the product is questionable. If you don't know what is a dirty hold time and what is a clean hold time, how do you do that? It is a part of quality tool only. There is no other supporting quality tool. You have to do that.
There is no escape.
No escape. You can't cut short for that. No.
Krishnakant, you have come across any such occasion that where you could not be able to do that studies?
That's only shortcut. Yeah, study is required. You require study for the dirty equipment hold time and then clean equipment hold time. Yes, it is required.
What he is writing, Krishnakant is writing now, few small scale industries don't have that actually. That is why he is asking that question. He is having a critical problem, sir. We have to solve his problem.
I understand, but this is a very specific case, and maybe if you give me data, I'll be able to give you some solution for that.
Okay, Krishnakant, I have given my...
Not at this forum.
Yeah, Krishnakant, I have given you my mail ID. You can send your query to mail ID. We will discuss with Mr. Prasad. Then we will get back to you.
Thanks for attending this webinar. Hope you enjoyed the program. If you have got further questions, please drop a mail to sks@smartlabtech.net. We want to convey our special thanks to Mr. Ramalinga Prasad Kuppa for conducting this webinar and enlightening the pharma community. Please contact us if you are looking for a consultancy. Thanks for asking questions and making the program very interactive and live.